Welcome back in, everybody, to a Victory Monday here on Birds 365. Eagles get the win 37-17. Who's counting 27-7 in the second half? Joined now by Jeff Kerr from CBS Sports. Jeff, welcome to the show, man. How you doing on this overreaction Monday?
I think the NFC East is going to be coming down to the Eagles and the Commanders. That's all I got to say about a crazy.
By the way, that was one of Jaden Daniels might have surpassed Aaron Rodgers for the Hail Mary. That was phenomenal.
You know what, John? It's funny. It was listed as a 52-yard touchdown pass, but man, that throw was not 52 yards, especially
especially the height.
Right?
That's exactly what you want to do on a Hail Mary. Get the height. You got to extend the play to give all your receivers a chance to get down there, number one. So obviously he does that beautifully, but then you got to throw it that high to let somebody tip the football. And then the Bears that's what you teach guys to do. You want the one player in the back to catch the tip. That's a bad job by the Bears. One of them was yelling at the fans. Maybe that was a problem.
Did you see the Eagles connection on that Hail Mary, by the way?
Was Zach Ertz out there? I don't know.
So, okay, ready for this?
Olamide as well.
Yeah, so Olamide was out there. Zach Ertz was the one who tipped it back to Noah Brown, and Ertz didn't think he got anything on it, and it turned out by replay he did. He said he felt something, but Kevin Byard was supposed to be covering. Noah Brown. So there's a lot of Eagles connections on that play.
A lot of Eagles.
Can I say this about the Commanders win? It was awesome, and it was crazy play, and I get it, but it didn't really make me feel like they're much better than me in the NFC. I mean, they were one crazy play away from losing.
Well, yeah,
You're exactly right to think that.
I get it. It was a great play, but I still kind of feel like that Commanders team has to prove more to me. It's their first year. And the Eagles,
I look at it like they played really well defensively. And then they got, sort of so many of these games. I mean, they get a pass. They're almost off the field. A pass interference. I guess it was pass interference that gives Chicago a touchdown, and that's why they were behind. But boy, I don't know. That's good defense, and
I'll just say this: Washington's going to be in it all year because they play nobody. They play nobody on that schedule, and yeah, I know they play the Eagles twice, but if you look at their schedule, you're like, oh, okay, this team can rack up 11, 12 wins. It's just how many can the Eagles rack up?
Yeah, well, the Eagles are taking advantage of a light portion of their schedule now.
Yep.
And they should be able to make it 4 in a row next week. So where are you on the bipolar meter, Jeff Kerr? Back to the Super Bowl? Or, where are you with this team?
I said on CBS Philly yesterday, Don and Pat looked like they were going to blow their gasket when I said, well, the Eagles are going to win today, and they're going to be 7-2 when they play Washington. They're like, you're already thinking ahead? I said, yeah, because I thought yesterday was the game that, look, I was convinced Dallas wasn't good. Last night fueled that conviction more than anything. And I really think this team is on a run right now. That was their best football game they played all year. That might have been Jalen Hurts' best football game as an Eagle.
Boy. As an Eagle?
I'm not going to go that far.
I can't say that.
I think it was better in the Super Bowl than that, but nobody.
He didn't turn the football over yesterday.
Yeah, but still, he wasn't nearly as dynamic as he was.
9 for 9.
I can't go that far.
9 for 9, 150 yards in the second half, though.
Well, Jeff, what'd you think of the formula? Because last week we had you on, and I was the crazy man chanting ground and pound, and I understand the limitations of that. But what I saw yesterday, and maybe I'm wrong, you tell me, I saw a balanced attack. They used the passing game in the second half to build that lead. A great approach. When I looked at that game, I said, this is something this team can build on and be a formidable opponent versus anybody they play in the NFL. Versus last week, you're like, well, you can't run on every single team you play, right, to get to a Super Bowl. I thought that formula yesterday was a winning formula for the Eagles. What do you think, Jeff?
I mean, they did use the pass to set up the run yesterday, but yeah, it was a very balanced attack. But as you saw, Zander, when they got the 10-point lead, it was okay. Now we're going to ground and pound. That is what most good football teams do. And that's when you saw Saquon Barkley take over the game. You saw a little bit of Kenny Gainwell. Boy, I'm feeling for Will Shipley. I thought he had his first touchdown yesterday.
Nick Gates, my boy Nick Gates gets out for the hold.
Yeah.
Like that was a hold though.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah. Now the Tyler Steen hold was not a hold.
I didn't think it was a hold, and I got slammed on Twitter because they said Tyler Steen had 2 crucial penalties in the first half. I'm like,
yeah, I hear that too because I was impressed with the offensive line, and that's what I don't know who brought it up. It might have been you guys, Dan and Zander. I don't know, or somebody else. So I'm like, but both of them were bullshit calls. So like, I'm not going to blame the guy. Like he's not going to get yelled at. Like that's the league. And that's the way the Eagles teach it. Push the guy after the play. Hey, how about blowing a whistle and blowing a play dead like they used to do?
Yeah, you know, John, this is what I always say, like when I'm tweeting during the game. People do the most knee-jerk reactions. I'm just going by what the game book is telling me.
Exactly.
Not what I actually feel what the play is. I agreed with all of them. Like, well, it's not a hole, but they're like, oh, you don't know anything. I'm like, there's nothing about that. It's what does the stat tell you? You want the stat to go in your favor all the time. It doesn't work like that.
Yeah, Well, I'm just talking about how the coaches will approach the correction. Like they're not going to correct Tyler Steen because somebody blew a call.
Tyler Steen had a great game yesterday.
Yeah. And
both backup offensive linemen did.
Yeah. Fred was
Fred Johnson allowed 1 pressure yesterday. I never would have expected that.
Of everything you talk about in the game, that was the least likely scenario. Yeah. Every single one.
One pressure. Is that what that was, Jeff? Just 1 pressure?
1 pressure. So this is how funny the league works, right? So Fred Johnson was 168th out of 168 in pressure rate allowed per drop back going in yesterday at 21.3%. He dropped it to 18.4 and actually moved down the rankings because more people are now qualified, and he's still dead last by a wide margin. But he played great yesterday.
He really did. Versus really a good edge rusher in Trey Hendrickson. I mean, he took him out of the game. Trey didn't make a play. He didn't make any play. I didn't hear his name at all, except for when he jumped the pile in the tush push, which I don't even think ultimately. I don't even know if that worked.
Nor did Sam Hubbard. Like Cincinnati's pass rush was non-existent yesterday.
Yeah, Sam's not having a good year in general, but Trey is. Yeah, that was
Trey's top 5 in the league right now.
Yeah, I mean that was a mismatch on paper. Let's just be careful. I mean, everybody can play in the NFL, and if somebody's got if somebody's having a good day and somebody's having a bad day, who knows? Maybe Trey Hendrickson woke up with a cold. I don't know. Yeah. Maybe he's fighting with his wife. I don't know. Well, it could be a million different things.
Take those excuses and chuck them out the window. Good day for Fred Johnson.
I'm saying Fred Johnson owned him on this particular day. That's what I'm trying to say.
And the power of motivation, especially in football, goes a long way. I mean, John, you and I talked to Fred last week. I've talked to Fred plenty of times. Fred, the number one thing he always said, I remember asking him, like, so what have you learned over the last couple of years from what you learned in Cincinnati? He goes, everything I did in Cincinnati, just don't do. And, he smiled about it. Yeah. I laughed about it. It's one of those things where, because you knew how bad he was in Cincinnati, but, he had to have the feeling like, I'm going to prove.
Yeah, and then he's motivated, right? Going back to Cincinnati to prove, some things to them and himself. I mean, there's so many things that factor into it. But if you play Trey Hendrickson against Fred Johnson 7, what I'm trying to say, if you do that 17 consecutive weeks, it's probably not going to go well for Fred. But on this day, he beat the you-know-what off him.
And you know what, John? This is what's crazy about the whole thing. If Mekhi Becton was healthy this week, he's probably the left tackle against Trey Hendrickson, and Fred Johnson doesn't get this opportunity.
Yeah. I don't know if they were going to make that change. I had thought about that. And on the short run, but I think after last week,
now I don't think they're going to.
No, well, I think after the Giants game, though, I think they said, "All right, we'll keep it going," because they were having success. But Yeah, I thought originally if it were a long-term absence for Jordan Mailata, eventually they would move Becton out there. I don't think that's the case anymore.
It doesn't get any easier for Fred Johnson next week either.
No, but again, that can change. Everything can change from week to week.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
John, I don't know if you were paying attention to too much stuff around the league yesterday with post game stuff for the Eagles, but did you see who Josh Allen threw his first interception to yesterday of the season?
Was it Josh Jobe?
It was.
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, I know you said Seattle, so I was going, yeah, Josh. Yeah, Josh is playing a lot out there. I don't know who got hurt, but
Well, Reek Woolen was back yesterday. I'm trying to think. There was somebody out for Seattle yesterday, but Reek Woolen was out a couple weeks and he came back, and Josh Jobe was filling in for him.
Josh Jobe, yeah. Good special teams player. Did not cover well here. So I'm glad he's doing better out in Seattle.
You go to Mike McDonald, all of a sudden you know how to play football.
Yeah. Well, that scheme matters. Like everybody talks about Kyle Hamilton. I'm not sure you want Kyle Hamilton in this scheme because you're not going to use him like Kyle Hamilton.
I thought Kyle Hamilton lost the game for Baltimore yesterday.
He did. Well, he actually had him in the game. Then he lost the game because he was making every play.
How about that? The Browns beat the Ravens.
So you know what's funny about that game when Lamar was doing his heroics on the last play, and he was so upset. Everybody goes, "Why is he so upset?" It was basically a Hail Mary. I'm like, if you look, Zay Flowers tripped. Zay Flowers was open. Yeah. And I thought Lamar was upset at two things. One, obviously Zay Flowers tripping because he had him. And two, if you do the still shot, there is no one within like 50 yards of Lamar. He might have been able to run that in.
Yeah, I mean, this league is so even. And I think that frustrates people because the assumption is that you can take week to week, like San Francisco. Right. Dallas. I'm like, this game's over. I turned off the TV. I'm like, I'm done with this. I'm sick of watching this. And then I wake up this morning and Dallas had a chance to win the game with 3 minutes left.
Yeah, you know what, John? That game was so weird. I still say Dak Prescott is the master of getting those
garbage time.
Yeah, the garbage time. But then
they had the ball. It was 30-24. They had the ball with 3 minutes. That's a legit shot to win.
Oh, now, yeah, and he looked terrible during that drive. So I don't know what happened, what changed there. But did you see the Trayvon Diggs controversy after that game?
I did.
I saw him run out.
I don't know what the guy said.
Yeah, I didn't see the details.
He posted his tweet, and I'll tell you what a professional response. He said, "You're right, Trayvon. I don't know. I'm not at this level, but I'm asking you a question to explain to me."
Yeah.
You know, that's that whole honestly, Trayvon Diggs is part of the biggest problem with everything today. I know more than you, so I don't need an explanation.
Yeah, I agree, Jeff. Jeff, let me ask you about the quarterback yesterday, man. I know you mentioned it already, said maybe his best game as an Eagle. I don't want to go that far, but I will say this, because I've been hard on him when he played bad. I thought he was elite yesterday, and he played really, really well. And if he plays like that week in and week out, he's got to keep stacking bricks. It's only week 8. You can't win a Super Bowl in October, but I think this team could be a Super Bowl team if he plays like that. Is that an overreaction on this Monday, or do you agree?
Not at all. Look, I'll say this. Everybody wants Jalen Hurts to be this world-beaten superstar. They want him to be Josh Allen. They want him to be Patrick Mahomes. You don't have to do that. All you have to do is not turn the football over and make smart decisions with the football, which is what he's done the last 3 weeks. It's not a coincidence this team is winning games as a result.
Yeah, you put out the stat, Jeff, on the Eagles' record when he's turnover free. What was the number again?
They're 13-1 when Jalen Hurts does not turn the football over.
13-1 when he doesn't turn the football over. And to your point about, not making him something he's not, just be great at being Jalen Hurts, and that's what he was yesterday. I thought he ran the ball well, looked explosive in the run game, passed the ball well, obviously, had a deep throw to Devontae Smith, which he still has that deep ball, man. He really can thread the needle on those. I thought
he's
really
always been great at the deep ball.
Yeah, he is tremendous this season at passes of 25+ air yards, 10+ air yards, especially over the last couple of weeks. It just seemed like once Jalen Hurts was able to have a turnover-free game, He just has been trying to roll with it. And we're seeing this right now with Patrick Mahomes in Kansas City. The guy can't go a game without throwing a pick.
Yeah, there's obviously got to look at each interception.
And yesterday wasn't Mahomes' fault. The ball got tipped.
Exactly. So I mean, some of them, his interceptions against Green Bay in the opener were egregious. All of them.
Yeah.
Just
Week
terrible
1.
decisions.
Yeah, week 1 of the season too.
Yeah. So and sometimes it's a tip ball, sometimes it's a receiver not corralling a good pass. So you have to look at each one individually, and there's a randomness to it which frustrates people. And the Eagles finally got some turnovers. And it's funny because I was talking to Slay about it last week, and he said, the same thing you say with pass rushers. You got to earn your right to rush the passer, meaning you don't rush the passer well at 2nd and 3 or 3rd and 2. You rush the passer well when it's 3rd and 13 and you can pin your ears back. Same thing with turnovers. If it's 2nd and 3 all the time, you're not going to turn the football over unless, somebody fumbles, it's an unforced error, whatever. There's some randomness to it, as I said, but all of a sudden they have Cincinnati in desperation mode. Joe Burrow's taking a shot down the field. You tip it, interception. Mike Gesicki's trying to get extra yardage, fumble, punch it out. You earn your right to get turnovers. When you're playing from the lead and a significant lead, and you're a quarterback in this league, you damn well better take care of the football. I think that's half the battle. Play from the lead.
And that's what ultimately got Joe Burrow yesterday. And look, that was a great play by Isaiah Rodgers to CJ Gardner-Johnson, but that's Burrow also trying to force something when they're down 10 points.
Yep.
Yeah. And it's so much of this game is common sense. So when you have success and when you look, if you're down 10 points and there's 6 minutes left in the game, you're more susceptible to throwing an interception than you are if you're up 2 scores and you're trying to close out the game. A lot of this stuff takes care of itself if you're playing good football and you're where you're supposed to be in the 4th quarter. Why can't people realize that, Chip Kerr?
I don't know, John. I'll say this though. I feel people really underestimate 2 aspects of the game, and one of it is, and I think fans are aware of this, but it's not talked about enough. Getting the ball after halftime and scoring before halftime.
Oh yeah, well that's why they defer. I you know how many times I had to explain this to Jody?
Oh my gosh, it was like
Jody hates that.
It was literally every Friday.
I'm like, it's you want to sandwich the 2nd quarter and the 3rd quarter with scores. If you do that, you win. The numbers astronomical. How the percentage?
The Eagles got 10 points by doing that. Yesterday.
Yeah.
It didn't. 14. I'm already forgetting that.
And it didn't look good at the start because they gave up the 10-minute drive, and you're like, I get the frustration, but if you're a bad team, sometimes you should do that. So I'm not saying it's 100% defer if you win the toss. If you're a bad football team, you might want to take the ball against Detroit and try to shorten the game and try to go on that type of drive. Not 10 minutes, but 7, 8 minutes, score a touchdown, try to shorten the game.
And you want to see how the other team reacts too.
Yeah. The Eagles don't think of themselves that way. And the fact that they have A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, Jalen Hurts, Saquon Barkley, et cetera, Dallas Goedert when he gets back, why would they think that way? Defer. For the Eagles, it's basically organizational writ because they have all these playmakers. So they should not care if they fall behind even 7-0. You don't want to fall behind, but they're a team that should not care. Now, it's not always been that way because the offense has been kind of clunky. But, boy, I mean, if this offense gets to where it was in the second half yesterday, Cincinnati didn't know what to do. And Goddard's not even out there.
Yeah. By the way, they scored on 6 of 7 possessions yesterday. That's
Yeah,
really
Jeff,
impressive.
it was a touchdown before the half. So
thank you. So it was 14
field
points.
goal.
Yeah.
Then the Eagles got the touchdown, tied at 10-10, and then they took the lead 17-10 on the first drive of the second half. I mean, you're right about that, man. A quick 14-point swing, and all of a sudden the Eagles are up a touchdown instead of down a touchdown. Really good stuff right there.
Yeah, and Cincinnati responded, but again, the Eagles just got 14 points off them before Cincinnati could even know what hit them.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah, it to me, you always, if you win that toss and you're a good football team, you always defer, basically.
Yeah.
Jeff, thoughts on the defense yesterday, man? Cooper DeJean. I mean, I thought Cooper DeJean was great. I thought the defensive line created some pressure. I know they didn't get home a lot, but as John mentioned, Joe was getting that ball out quick. What'd you think of the defensive performance yesterday?
I mean, there's not too much to complain about. I think the only time I really complained about the defense at all yesterday was the 3rd and 22 to Gesicki, because Josh Sweat was able to get pressure up the middle. I think Bryce Huff stumbled, or I thought Bryce Huff would have gotten him. It seemed like he was kind of on skates there trying to get Burrow. And look, he's a good quarterback. He's a more mobile quarterback than people give him credit for. I thought Gesicki was fantastic yesterday for them, by the way. But yeah,
shocker.
Yeah.
You're
big game. Well, Joe Burrow likes him. That's what I'm told anyway.
No, well, he's athletic, man. He's still athletic. He's more of a receiver than
catch with the one hand was really a nice catch.
They were using him more as like a third receiver than a real tight end.
Yeah, they were
talking maybe his role.
So Cincinnati really likes Jermaine Burton too, and Andre Isavas, and they like it. Like, it's very weird because when you look at Cincinnati, you're like, how is this team 3-5? I think we saw yesterday why they're 3-5, and I'm going to start with their head coach. I don't get why
he stinks.
Yeah, I don't get why Zach Taylor's going for it on 4th and 1 at the 39. When you
I get that. I
agree, Jeff, with that.
My problem is the 3rd and 1.
Well, the 3rd and 1 play was bad too. That's where I was getting.
Could you announce to everybody, hey, we're going to run the football?
Yeah, we're going to put Zach Moss in the game to run the football.
And you don't have Saquon Barkley. You have Zach Moss. That to me was the problem there. But you had to go at that point of the game. My problem is early in the game, and I said this to Zander, they had a 4th and 3 with a chance to go up 14-0. And they didn't go for it. And I said, This is the exact example of why the Eagles have such an advantage over these teams that are not aggressive. There's no guarantee they're going to get it, but you have a chance to seize that game, to seize control of that game. And if you don't get it, you got the Eagles backed up, and you go a different route.
Yeah, you talked about that on the halftime show, John.
Yeah, it's such an easy decision at that point of the game.
I was on the Bengals pregame show yesterday for a good half hour, 45 minutes, and we were talking about this game, and I'm trying to figure out a little bit more. And I talked to them off air about this, what's actually going on in Cincinnati, and they said, "Boy, we wish we were the Eagles." They get their guys signed. They don't let a guy like a Jesse Bates or a Joe Mixon go because they got to pay this guy, and they still haven't paid this guy. And they said, it's just a completely different run organizations. And
their shoestring budget, Mike Brown, all that kind of stuff. Duke Tobin's got like a 5-man scouting staff. The Eagles are like 30 deep. I talk about it all the time. And Duke does it.
Did you see the Bengals were the only NFL team on Saturday around the country? You know how scouts always go to college football games. They were the only NFL team to not.
Well, they have nobody.
Yeah, exactly. and they all laugh about, like, I think it's Cincy Jungle. I think it's their SB Nation page. They're like, well, the Bengals have like 3 scouts. I don't know.
I mean, they don't. Yeah, they can't go to every game. So it's a joke. It really speaks to when people talk. And I talk about how good Howie is all the time, but Duke Tobin's top 5 as well, because what he's able to do with no support staff is pretty stinking amazing. And what Cincinnati's been able to do.
Is it simply chalked up to that the owner doesn't want to spend, or does the market size?
Yeah, that's exactly what it is.
The owners.
I know, but like Eagles, I would imagine the Eagles and the Cowboys, for example, are making more money than the Bengals organization simply based on market size. Maybe I'm way wrong.
Well, no, they are, but there's plenty. There's rich NFL owners, and everybo's rich. You have to be rich.
I know what you're saying, though. Yeah, there's some that don't. That can.
But there's different levels.
It's a good example, Zander. I'll cross sports here. Baseball. You got your Stuart Steinbergs or your John Fishers.
The Cincinnati's a small market team in baseball terms, but it's really about the owner's willingness to spend money on stuff that isn't capped. And by that, I mean, like, you have a salary cap, so everybody's under the same restrictions. Howie manipulates it better than most with the help of Jake Rosenberg in the past and now Bryce Johnston. But everybody's under the same restriction. Off the field, staff, support staff, you can spend however much you want to get an advantage.
Right. Is all the TV revenue split? Is that the only thing that's split evenly?
No, there's a bunch of.
Yeah, there's more than
merchandising. There's a bunch, but TV's the most significant by far.
Right. Yeah, that's the hundreds of millions.
There's a reason why the NFL TV deal, even though it lasts to 2033, there's an opt out because they're going to get more money in. They're going to get 5 years.
Yeah. But Duke does a tremendous job. But getting back to the. Because a lot of people were criticizing. What game was it where the Eagles missed a bunch of fourth downs? People were losing their minds.
Well, there were a couple games. The Atlanta game was
Atlanta. I was going to say,
yeah. And people were losing their minds, and I'm like, you don't get this, man. Over the long haul, this has been a tremendous, tremendous advantage for the Eagles, and you've seen it over the past 2 weeks, especially. But in Cincinnati, then remember when the Eagles had the ball. 4th and 1 at their 39 or somewhere around there. At their own 39. They didn't give up a possession. They went for it. So many teams give up a possession. Washington almost lost the game. They had a 4th and inches.
Yeah, and I don't know why they didn't go for it. I was wondering.
With Jaden Daniels.
Yeah.
A 4th and inches. And they should have lost the game because they played conservatively.
I thought the Bears lost that game twice. I don't know why DeAndre Swift or Roschon Johnson's not getting the ball in the end zone with 6 minutes left.
They're handing it to an offensive lineman.
And it didn't work. By the way, Caleb Williams getting credit for that fumble is a bunch of BS.
Well, quarterbacks, that's another thing with turnovers. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. Quarterbacks always get credit for the fumbles. So that's another example of a statistical and a mesh point fumble. It might be Kenny Gainwell's fault, Saquon's fault, Miles Sanders' fault, DeAndre Swift's fault. It always goes on Jalen Hurts' record. Always. Always.
John, and I'm a big stat guy, right? But watching, perfect example. I'm watching Penn State Saturday. Bo Pribula completes a 30-yard pass. He's supposed to hand the ball off to Nick Singleton. Well, Singleton's going the right way, to the right, and Pribula's going to the left. I'm like, oh, God, this guy. But he realized it and just happened to see somebody open that wasn't supposed to even be part of the play. But it's football, right? You improvise, and the receiver just puts his hand up and Pribula throws up. Like, well, that could have been disaster.
By the way, your club, I was impressed by that backup quarterback. At least in the second half.
They play him in like significant snaps, but not as quarterback. They usually have like a couple like design plays for him. So I was curious how it was going, because he was a 4-star recruit out of Central PA. So
they all are.
Yeah, but I was trying to tell people, look, the guy's not Drew Aller, but the kid can play.
I'm not a big Drew Aller fan.
I'm not.
Now he's gotten better this year. He was terrible last year.
He was absolutely terrible. He was in Charles Barkley terms, terrible. Yeah, he literally was afraid of the moment. He could not.
Jeff always gets me in the Penn State. He's like a trap with Jeff. He always gets me.
It's a big week this week, John. This is like my Christmas.
They're the king of the B teams. That's how
they got Ohio State this weekend. Is that what
you know? What? I try not to convince myself into all this, but I was not impressed with Ohio State at all.
No, they're not. They're not typical Chip Kelly. It's like a weight on that team as well. I'm joking. Yeah, they're not as good as they typically are. Hey, it's all there for Penn State, man. They got to take advantage.
It really is. Even if they lose Saturday, it's all there for them. So at least go to the playoff.
What are they? Third in the country?
They're third in the country in the highest.
Your coach drives me absolutely crazy. I can't stand that guy.
Well, trust me, try dealing with him.
I can't stand him. Yeah, I'm not
James Franklin
guy at all.
Yeah.
My girlfriend's a Penn Stater, but I hate him.
James Franklin is not a likable person. I'll just say
no, he's not. I mean, the way he handled that whole thing last week with the reporter.
Oh, that was bad. That was a PR nightmare. And
yeah, it was absolutely.
He could have fixed it right away and just said,
"I almost screwed Saquon here. He's not even with his team." Yeah, he almost screwed Saquon.
By the way, talking to a lot of people in the Penn State community, when that Saquon thing happened, a lot of people were like, "Oh my God, just keep your mouth shut."
Exactly. Just shut up, dude.
I mean, like, I forget. Did the Eagles even get anything for that?
No,
they didn't. Yeah, I didn't think they did. Like, I thought it was perfectly okay to talk to your college coach, but what do I know?
Yeah, he's just a dummy and said that how we talk to Saquon, and you're not allowed to talk to personally. You can only talk to the agent, not the player. So, anyway, yeah, they didn't get docked for it.
Yeah, I'll just say this with the whole Saquon to the Eagles thing. I mean, the wheels were in motion for that long before Monday at 12 o'clock.
Yeah, the Eagles have wanted Saquon for a while. We now know. They have him in the Christian McCaffrey, Bijan Robinson category, which is ironic because and I tell Zander, whenever they value a running back, which is very rare, it's always because of their ability in the passing game. So a lot of people have taken shots at me because Saquon's playing so well. And by the way, as Zander can also attest to, I predicted he'd get 16 to 1,700.
You've been saying that since May.
Yeah, 16 to 1,700 yards from scrimmage. But I said pretty consistently he's not going to be a difference maker in the passing game. He's not been a difference maker.
No, I don't even know. Does he even have 100 yards receiving? Maybe like 100.
I think he does now.
He's over 100, but
that's just not That's just not. It's weird because it's just not Jalen Hurts' game, and it's not really the Eagles' game.
It's not. It's not. And part of it's not even his fault. No. But I'm talking about the people like all offseason. Oh, he's going to play in the slot. I'm
like, 106.
No, he's not.
106 yards, guys, through 7 games. Yeah. 106 yards.
He's going to be. You don't need a slot receiver because he can play in the slot against NFL corners. I mean, that's the people I said, come on. That's a day off for an NFL slot corner. And that's nothing against Saquon Barkley.
I almost, not like I wanted to go after a fan this morning, but I had someone ask me on Twitter, I think it was from a tweet yesterday, they're doing this, they're doing this, they're doing this, they're doing motion. Why does it take so, or why doesn't this coaching staff figure this out in week 1? I'm like, I don't know. You can ask 32 teams about that. They don't care about August. They don't. It's September is the ramp up month. And October is when you're actually seeing good football. It's just going to be the way it is with this schedule.
Yeah. And too many teams, you don't see good football in October.
I don't see good football at all from the New York Jets. They stink.
Oh, man, I was wrong. I thought they got.
I was way wrong on the Jets. Oh, man.
A lot of us were way wrong on the Jets.
I thought Aaron had one more. I was concerned about his age and coming back, but I thought he had one more run in him.
Me too.
Boy, I got that one wrong. Boy,
it didn't matter if he did have one more run in them. They just can't. The receivers can't get separation. Their defense.
I thought Garrett Wilson was going to be a star.
Aaron Rodgers don't like him. He's too busy trying to get his boys back.
Yeah, I know, but Garrett Wilson doesn't look like he has it. I don't know. We'll see what ends up happening. Robert Saleh is somewhere drinking a margarita.
He's got a new gig.
He's in Green Bay drinking a margarita.
Yeah.
Is he? Did he take the job? I thought he wouldn't, because then doesn't that mean you don't have to get paid from the former
Oh
organization?
no, he can do what Vic Fangio did. He's a
Consultant.
Yeah.
By the way, John, you would enjoy this. This was like our my debate with the research team this week. They're like, "This is Vic Fangio's second stint with the Eagles." I'm like, yes and no, because they're like, "Well, he was there for the Super Bowl." I'm like,
Well, at that
yes.
entire year, I would bang my head on the wall because Vic evidently did an interview somewhere. I forget where it was, where he's talking about his love of the Phillies, really mainly.
Yeah.
And
He always asks us about the Phillies.
He mentioned he was helping out the Eagles, and he was, we sort of friend of the program. Like Brad Seeley is at Eagles practice all the time. For those who don't know, is former longtime special teams coordinator, retired, just helps out. And he has been for like 3 years. But Vic was at training camp a couple days, and Jonathan Gannon used to call him up and talk to him. He said mainly golf, but he was never a consultant. And it was reported somewhere that he was a consultant.
I thought NFL Network reported that.
Yeah, and all year it's like I would say he's not a consultant. He's not a consultant. And then, during the Super Bowl, during the lead, they said, "Hey, Vic, you want to be a consultant?" And they actually signed him to a consultant thing in the lead up to the Super Bowl. Miami had to approve it because he had already agreed to become the defensive coordinator there. But finally validating, you don't sign a contract to be a consultant if you're a consultant. But I still haven't gotten apologies for that either.
Hey, you know what? You're never going to get an apology when you're right, John McMullen.
Yeah, exactly.
Jeff Kerr, I got a question for you on this Eagles team, and maybe it's too early, but it's an overreaction Monday. Are they getting closer to Super Bowl contending form? I know you can't win one in October, but I think it's about stacking on top of what you've been building the last couple of weeks and trying to get back to that top tier form they were in 22. I think they're closer to that today than they have been, in a while. Where are you on that?
I think it's fair to think they're one of the better teams in the NFC just based on how they played yesterday. And look, I still need to see more out of them too. But I got to do the playoff standings every week for CBS, and it's like more of a breakdown of how each team's playing more than anything else. But if you look at the top of the league right now, it's Detroit, it's Washington, it's Philly, because Atlanta's going to run away with the South, by the way. The NFC South, after Evans and Godwin got hurt, you might as well forget Tampa Bay. So, and the Saints stink. Dennis Allen should be going. Hey, John, look, I'm going on Dennis Allen rant. He should be been calling him up.
Yeah, you've been ripping on Dennis Allen.
He's the worst coach in the league.
He should be the Penn State defensive coordinator. That's his next job.
Oh, they got a good
I know.
guy with the last name of Allen.
I mean, I will say that I agree with you, by the way. I don't think Dennis Allen is a good head coach, but
he's a great defensive
he lost his quarterback. I mean, he's throwing out Spencer Rattler and
Jake Hayner.
I mean, yeah, you're not going to win a lot of games.
No, but it's just something that it's just. By the way, the NFC West, there are 3 teams at 4-4, and the Rams. Remember, they were sellers going into last week. Came out of the first.
Yeah, the Rams look good on Thursday night with Cooper and Puka back. It's amazing how that happens as well. But
what do you think?
The Vikings almost went from first to last in 5 days.
I know, in the NFC.
That's how good that division is. And look, Green Bay had a gutsy win yesterday too. I mean,
now is Jordan Love going to play next week?
That's a good question.
Because if he doesn't play, Detroit will murder them.
Yes, they will. The Lions scored 50 points yesterday, and they didn't even get 250 yards of offense.
It's amazing what is going on there.
They're the best team in the NFL right now.
They're so. It's almost like they're so good. They score so quickly. It's frightening.
I had to rank. So every year after 7 weeks, one of my big assignments is I have to rank. We call it the Super 7, the 7 teams who I feel have a realistic chance at the Super Bowl after 7 weeks and ranking them, I put the Lions first, and I got so much backlash. You sure you want to do that? The Chiefs are undefeated. I'm like, the Lions would beat the Chiefs right now easily.
Oh my God! They
just let me cook here. Like, and they're like, well,
there's
sure
like, if you're doing tiers of teams right now, tier 1 is Detroit, and nobody else is in tier 1. Nobody.
Yeah,
nobody else.
Fair. What about the NFC?
Kansas
I
City.
don't see that many legitimate contenders in the NFC. Like,
I
know there's a lot of good records, but I mean,
there's like 4 of them.
I'm not ready to buy into the Commanders yet. I'm sorry, and the magical play doesn't move the needle for me.
I don't blame you there.
No,
Lions,
I don't blame you. I don't blame you there either. It's
Eagles, Lions, Packers. Who else?
Yes, they're the 3. They're the 3, Zander. And look,
but right now, if I'm being honest, I have Lions number 1.
Yeah,
I know Eagles fans are going to lose their minds, but I have Packers number 2, and I have Eagles number 3. And yes, I know the Packers beat the Eagles beat the Packers
in Brazil.
Yeah, I think the Packers are a better team when Jordan Love is healthy, if he can get healthy.
You know where the Eagles can beat the Packers?
I'll put Eagles at 2 for me.
This is why the Eagles beat the Packers. And Jordan Love is a turnover machine. They can rave about all the touchdown passes he throws, all the stuff, and he does. But man, does he make?
Well, I admit he has to cut down on the recklessness. But the Eagles, if you look at that game, that was not the Jordan Love you're going to see later in the year. Bunch of passes, bunch of step left on the field. I don't know how many. I think it was Dontavian Wicks dropped like 3 balls. There was a lot of shit went the Eagles' way in that game.
Yeah, and you know what? It's a week 1 game, so it's kind of hard to put stock in it. Except that the fact that the Eagles
plus
won.
the field. Yeah. But that's where I think the Eagles need to go. There's 2 teams that would scare me as if I were an Eagles fan. There's 2 teams that I don't know if I can outscore, and it's Detroit and Green Bay. And there should be no teams that the Eagles should not be able to outscore.
And the Eagles are fortunate that they're in the same division, because the way this thing is shaping up right now, if you win the NFC East based on how the Eagles and Washington are playing, you're going to be the 2 seed at minimum.
How about the 49ers? Where are you guys on the 49ers?
I'm higher on them most, but they're banged up.
If Christian shows up, and he might show up after the bye. When's their bye week?
12? Does that sound right?
I'll look real quick.
By the way, guys, they are a second half. They are the epitome of that cliche second half team. They're 23-4 from weeks 9 to 18 over the last 3 years or something.
Now, Brandon Ayuk injury hurts. So
George Kittle's still really, really good at football.
Oh man, did you see the one pass play where he took it down to about the 2? Mm-hmm. And that it doesn't matter who they have. They lost Mason. That other kid's running the ball like a
That was my guy in the draft, Isaac Correndo. And I was already high on the guy, and then he gets drafted by the 49ers. I'm like, well, every dynasty league in fantasy, I'm drafting that guy.
Week 9 bye, so the Niners are on the bye right now after that.
So they're on the bye now.
I think I read last week McCaffrey might be back after the bye.
By week 10, yeah.
So that changes things dramatically. But yeah, they're like I would still the 49ers with McCaffrey, I would trust more than basically everybody but Green Bay and Detroit.
John, am I crazy for this to give Sean Payton some praise for maybe Coach of the Year?
I don't think you're crazy.
No.
I mean, that team is not good, and they're 5-3.
I know.
With a rookie quarterback.
In the AFC, too.
In the AFC West. Like, they're in second place in the AFC West right now.
Well, the NFC has better teams than the AFC.
Yes, they do.
They're much deeper.
By a wide margin.
How about this for Coach of the Year? Could Andy Reid be Coach of the Year?
He could. But he won't win it. He won't win it.
Yeah,
but
really? Exactly. I feel like that team is not playing good, and they just keep.
He's always Coach of the Year. That's the point. He's expected.
He's lifetime coach.
I'm talking about the awards.
It's always about the dude who's not supposed to do it.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like Manager of the Year. It's who's the biggest surprise.
If you say who the best coach is, it's Andy Reid.
It's Andy. He's the eternal Coach of the Year. By the way, he's a higher win percentage than Bill Belichick now.
Yeah, he's a good man. He is.
I can't help but rooting for Andy. I'm sorry, Eagles fans. If they're not playing the Eagles,
I love Andy Reid.
I'm rooting for Andy Reid. I love watching him.
If you're
Reid
an
gave
Eagles
me 14
fan,
awesome years of football.
Yeah, if you're an Eagles fan, everything they do as one of the best organizations in sports, and certainly the NFL, relates to Andy Reid, teaching them how to do it. Everything.
And that came from Mike Holmgren, too, because that's why they hired Ray Rhodes. They wanted the guy from the Holmgren tree. They got that, and then they're like, okay, well, this one didn't work. Let's bring this guy in. And it was just some unknown – I don't even want to say he was an unknown quarterback coach, but it was for here, he was an unknown quarterback coach. And
yeah, well, he was unknown nationally. Like, people in the industry were aware, but you generally don't jump from that position to where he was. So, Jeffrey deserves a lot of credit. Jeffrey knows his biggest mistake as an owner was Chip Kelly and going
for the splashy hire.
The Andy Reid sort of template.
Yeah, I think we're still living with the ramifications of that decision. That's why I don't think he wants to give Nick Sirianni the full autonomy. And I think that's why there's so much
I would agree with that.
Input from the front office. I'm not even trying to say it in a negative way, but I think Jeffrey, was like, how he handles my money good, and I'm going to stick with that, and we're going to keep the philosophy because I ain't letting Chip Kelly or somebody like that come in here and fuck up my team again.
I'm not kicking Howie Roseman back to the corner of the Nova.
Yeah, no. Well, look, Howie's good at the money, man. And look, I can respect that. Jeffrey Lurie needs somebody to take care of the moolah, and Howie does a good job with that.
I still tell a lot of younger Eagles fans on Twitter when they think 2015 is the worst season ever. I'm like, oh no, you had to be there for 98. You really did. Yeah, that you knew that team was going to be bad, and boy, did they live up to the expectation.
I got to read about that season, Jeff. I got my Eagles encyclopedia from Ray Dinger.
They averaged 10.1 points per game. Zander, if you want to watch a fun Eagles game that's just hilariously bad, Eagles-Lions 1998 at the Vet. The Lions were a good team that year, and somehow the Eagles won. And
you guys have no idea. You're going back to 98. I mean, you.
Well, my dad told me in the 70s they were gone.
Oh my God, yeah, you have no idea how bad this organization.
Jeff, I'm going to go watch that at some point today. Eagles.
It's on YouTube.
I have NFL Plus too, so I'm sure it's on. They have a log of games. I don't know if they go back that far, but I'll look. So 98, you said Eagles Lions.
98 Eagles. Just looking up on
go back. You don't even have to go back to the 70s. The Mike McCormick era. I mean, they were Marion Campbell. They were.
Zander, I had some fun last week because I knew the Eagles hadn't beaten the Bengals in forever, and I remember being at this game. It was on Christmas Eve in 2000, and I rewatched it last week. Oh my God, I forgot how bad that game was. The Eagles needed to win to clinch a home wild card game, and they were coming off a bye week. By the way, if people remember, they used to have bye week. One team had a bye week every week, and the Eagles happened to have theirs in week 16. They signed Chris Warren. He fumbles the ball twice. A guy trips on the freaking home plate at the Vet, one of the chain gang. It was just a disaster, and they won. And everybody's like, there's no way this team's going to win a playoff game. They're not really that good. And what did they do the next week? They kicked the crap out of Tampa Bay.
I love it, Jeff. You're an encyclopedia for football.
But it cuts off at 98. Yeah.
No. So the
Rich
first
coach hype, baby. The thing about Rich coach.
The first year I remember really watching the Eagles was 94. So when I was 6,
that would have been Rich. I
was fresh out of the womb.
That was Rich. And I've rewatched a lot of old Eagles games even before I remember watching them, but that 95 team holds a special place in my heart just because they were the first team I remember that went to
There's a reason Dick Vermeil still has his picture up in Philadelphia, and that's because
they wanted to hire him back in 95, and he didn't want it.
That's because of the turnaround from just how disgustingly bad they were pre-Dick Vermeil for well over a decade.
Oh, yeah, it was it's how my dad explained it to me. He saw a winning season when he was 5, and then he didn't see a winning season again until he was 24 or something like that. Do you imagine this fan base if they went 18 years without a winning season, 18, 19 years?
Yeah, oh my God. Well, they would not accept. They don't accept. They don't accept what they have now. They want the coach fired. So many of them.
I think the maddest I've ever seen my dad watch an Eagles game was when they tied the Ravens in '97, and I'm like, and because I'm the stupid 8, 9-year-old, don't believe things end in ties. I'm like, wait, the game's over. He's like,
So you're
yeah,
Donovan
I heard so
McNabb.
many curse words about the game being over.
Is that a controversial opinion to think that professional NFL games should never end in a tie?
Well, Donovan didn't know it.
I don't know if it's controversial, but I mean, to not know it is.
And why the fuck do we end in ties? Really? Why?
Um,
We can't think of any system to get a winner before
They
we get out of here.
they try to make it better. It's just.
I mean, I'm not a huge fan of the college football setup, but like at least they get a winner.
They've even improved their overtime because now you have to go for
by
two
the way,
in the
from
third
night,
overtime.
so
Right, Jeff.
from 1960, which the Eagles won the championship, to 1978, no playoffs.
Yeah, it's bad.
And they're,
And now they played in the playoff bowl one year, but that doesn't count.
fourth place, fifth place, fourth place, third place. That was a good season. When they went 5-8-1 in 73, they came in third place. 2-11-1, 6-7-1, 3-10-1, 4-9-1, 2-12, 6-7-1. That's the run you had.
But I know fans don't like hearing about the Philly fans booing Santa Claus and throwing snowballs at Santa. My grandpa used to tell me that story all the time in '68. He said, "You don't understand. That was a big, big thing when that happened because of the ramifications of that game. They lost the #1 pick because they were winning at halftime. The fans were frustrated because they thought they were going to go winless. They thought they were going to bottom out. It never happened. And then you just have a pathetic-looking Santa Claus come out on the field." They said it really was like their first national story since they won the championship. It was a big deal. Like, people don't like to hear it, but we're tired of hearing about it. No, like, be proud of that. I always say it. Just be proud of it. It's like part of your lore.
So the Eagles have been around since 1933. For those who don't know.
Also, the last time they didn't score a point in the first quarter through 7 games.
So 91 years, including the Steagles year during
World War winning season.
World War II. And no coach has a better winning percentage than Nick Sirianni. And what would you say? At least 40% of the fans want him run out on a rail.
I think is it Andy Reid second or is Greasy Neal second in win percentage?
I believe Andy's second.
Yeah, because I thought Greasy Neal was the hot. So I almost flipped out somebody yesterday because everybody likes to get on Jalen Hurts and his 1-yard touchdowns, and I put Steve Van Buren has the most 1-yard. Steve Van Buren's the most touchdowns in Eagles history, 69. Jalen Hurts is second. Now he's got 48. So it goes, well, Van Buren's real. I'm like, you do know there's a game of the 1948 Eagles on YouTube, and Steve Van Buren runs for 4 1-yard touchdowns. So get out of here with that. And go look it up.
I like it.
The 1948 and 1949 world champions led by the great Steve Van Buren.
He was the NFL's greatest player.
Now you got Ray's encyclopedia. Ray will go off on 48 and 49.
Ray and I have talked about Steve Van Buren at nauseum one time, and he loves my opinion. He was the NFL's greatest player before Jim Brown showed up. He was.
Yeah, he was. And when people talk about Mount Rushmore, which I hate for Eagles, if you don't have Steve Van Buren,
he's got to be on it.
Yeah, I mean, you don't know what you're talking about.
Those 48-49 Eagles teams were loaded, by the way. There's just NFL Hall of Famers across the board on that team.
Yeah, the great Pete Pihos. Greasy Neal, the coach. The problem with Greasy Neal, when Greasy Neal got here, he started like 2-8 and 2-9. That's what screwed him up as far as winning percentage. But
he was a hell of a baseball player. Playing the 1919 World Series.
Yeah. Boy, we've gone down a rabbit hole of Eagles history.
You can go down the rabbit hole with Eagles history.
But for those who don't know, pre Dick Vermeil, but certainly the difference of, when Andy got here in 1999.
That's how this all started.
Yeah, this team was not always like this. This team was not always relevant. So there is a lot of entitled fans that have been created.
The 99 Eagles were 5-11, and they might have had the greatest coaching staff in NFL history.
Yeah. Well, that Washington.
There's a lot of NFL head coaches on that staff. Current NFL head coaches.
Yeah, how about that Washington staff as well? That Mike Shanahan.
Oh yeah, that's up there too. I mean, you look, Shanahan, Sean McVay, Kevin O'Connell. Was Kevin O'Connell a coach and a quarterback on that staff?
Probably. Sean McVay's still only 38 years old, and he's got the largest coaching tree in the league.
Tight ends coach for the
second to Andy probably, but that's pretty impressive.
When I was watching that Bengals game, you see like Sean McDermott, he's a scouting assistant. You see Harbaugh, you see Jim Johnson, who probably could have been an NFL head coach if he wanted to in that era. Brad Childress is on that staff. Steve Spagnuolo was on that staff. Yeah, you might have the greatest defensive coordinator of all time on your staff, and he wasn't even your defensive coordinator, but I digress.
Yeah.
Another funny thing about that. So, again, go down the rabbit hole. I decided to watch, because I like to watch 2000 Eagles for some reason, probably because it's the first good team I truly, truly remember. I'm watching Eagles Bears, and that was a bad game too. Clyde Simmons trying to sack Donovan McNabb.
Big Clyde. A lot of people.
He was 38, and he had like 7 sacks in his last season.
Yeah, Clyde's one of those players that gets lost in it when you think about those great Eagles defenses. Probably doesn't get the credit he deserves. People think about obviously Reggie first, but he was a really good player. And those, I think that's where Philadelphia fell in love with defense during that era.
Yeah.
And you can't play like that anymore. So
you talked to my dad. It was the John Bunning and Randy Logan, Bill Bergey, those guys. Claude Humphrey. Yeah.
Bill Bergey was great. Bill Bergey, I believe,
former Bengal,
in the running to be the veteran, one of the veteran guys getting into the Hall of Fame. I believe. Don't quote me on that. I believe he's still alive.
He's still alive. I forget who got picked this year. I remember. LaShawn McCoy. Was it LaShawn McCoy? He got picked this year, right?
No, he's not.
No. I meant the Eagles Hall of Fame. Sorry, I'm thinking.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm thinking something else. Yeah.
No, he's still in the mix for the regular voting, but the seniors committee,
the senior committee, Bill Bergey's on there.
Yeah. Jeff, back to today before we get you out of here, man. Your final thoughts. I mean, Eagles had a really big, promising win yesterday. You're not awarding any Super Bowls in October, but I think they're really showing positive signs.
Let's go. Get your plane tickets today.
I wouldn't mind going to New Orleans in February. I know John.
Well, yeah. But of course, everybody wants to go to New Orleans, but
it is starting to look like, though, like if I had to make a bold prediction, I wouldn't be surprised if the Eagles would be playing Detroit in the NFC Championship in January, just based on an overreaction from Week 8.
Yeah, that wouldn't surprise
me. Go to Detroit. I know how to get into the stadium now after 16 tries.
Can you imagine Detroit hosting an NFC Championship game, no matter who the opponent is?
So loud. You know what? Bring the earplugs.
I thought the loudest I heard a stadium on TV or anything was twice. Detroit's first playoff game last year, and when the Rams hosted the NFC Championship game during the Great Show on Turf years. That Trans World Dome was so loud.
Yeah, well, the people in St. Louis care about football. The people in Los Angeles, it's always the other team that's the home team. Doesn't matter who it is.
I can't believe St. Louis lost their football team. I really can't. Twice. I really can't believe they lost.
Well, that's why they have the Battle Hawks.
They get 40,000 a year. They get 40,000 for that. That city deserves a team. They do.
Well, Stan Kroenke has got a lot of money, and Los Angeles is a better market. So Not for interest, but just for business reasons.
I don't mind the Rams being back in LA. I do mind the Chargers in LA. I wish they were in San Diego. I can't believe they took
I think we all do, but San Diego, the Socialist Republic of California would not acquiesce to
Seriously,
San Diego.
Boy, we're getting it all today. We're getting Zander dropping F-bombs. We're getting the Eagles history lessons, and now we're getting political. Can you tell the election's coming up?
Has been on an unprecedented run of F-bombs, Jeff. We have been alerted by our viewers that we have been on a
too many
legendary
run.
run.
The Eagles didn't lose, and we're doing this.
I got to clean it up. You don't work blue because that's it's a crutch. But sometimes,
hey, listen, we keep stacking, John, like the Eagles are, and we get better each day. And we put our
stacking F-bombs. Yeah. Anyway, get your when you get off today, Jeff, make the reservation. New Orleans, it's done. Done deal. Philadelphia Eagles, Super Bowl.
So can we say that about at least 10 teams right now, or do we cut that list?
I'm cutting the list down to 2. Philadelphia, and who am I picking in the AFC? Boy, I don't know who
I still say Baltimore, even with
I gotta say Chiefs.
blunders.
I'm sorry. I
guess you got to take the Chiefs. It's so boring, but
they're like Thanos. They're inevitable, no matter what happens.
I like Baltimore better. I like Baltimore better last year, and they don't win.
I covered that game. I was like, "There's no way Baltimore loses this game, right?" And a lot of guys on that Chiefs team I'm close with. I said it when I went in that locker room, like, they're going to win the Super Bowl. They knew that was the team they had to beat. They didn't care who they were playing. They knew that was the team.
Yeah.
They went to beat them in their place.
And then we can watch Andy Reid beat the Eagles with corn dog, and everybody lose their minds.
Oh, God.
Okay, so we're going to play this fun scenario. When the Eagles fired Andy Reid, and again, you could say whatever you want about it, you still fired arguably the greatest head coach ever. My biggest fear was Andy Reid was going to win a Super Bowl for the Eagles. It did not happen, but he did beat them in a Super Bowl.
Yeah. Well, Andy Reid's arguably going to be in the top 5. Is that fair? Top 5 coaches of all time. When it's all
he's top 5 now.
Yeah.
What upsets me when people criticize it, he couldn't win without Mahomes. Yeah, he won with Donovan. He won with Kevin Cobb. He won with Michael Vick. He won with Alex Smith. He's won with a lot of people.
Yeah. The Chiefs, people forget that, Jeff, that the Chiefs were a playoff team with Alex Smith.
They were winning 12 games. They just couldn't win anything.
I know. And I don't know if I can blame Andy for that. Jeff, great stuff today, man. We appreciate you joining. And we'll talk to you again next week. All right, brother?
Yeah, sounds great. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, bud. Go Penn State.
No, fuck Penn State. Jeff's giving me I took him off the screen, didn't even give him a chance to defend his squad after that one. But good stuff there from everybody. Appreciate everybody in the chat. Make sure you guys hit that like button.
Zander's going through one down year for Alabama in 50 years.
John, I have a feeling it might be a 10 to 15 year.
No, I agree with you. You don't replace Nick Saban with
you just don't replace greatness. You just don't.
Yeah.
And by the way, we hired a Pac-12 coach who's coaching like he's in the Pac-12. You're in the SEC now. The Boar, although they had a big win this week versus Missouri. One of our viewers tweeted out to me that Missouri was going to beat us on Saturday morning. I had to quickly snap back at him after we shut them out.
Missouri's not. Missouri's
we're not the same Alabama, but shit, man, you're not.
Missouri's having a good year, but they're a fugazi SEC schools, so they're one of those Johnny-come-latelys. Although Texas A&M, boy, that's a tough place to play, man.
Yes, it is. That's a great stadium.